qualifying time this afternoon, which often happens when you have new team combinations, and we do see that a bit here at Nationals. Christina Clonan, of course, is training down in Adelaide with the national team, so there won't have been many opportunities for the three of them to ride together, perhaps in training, perhaps not at all. So really neat performance from them. Speaking of teams that haven't ridden together too much, we have the men's team's pursuit final. South Australia in the front straight, getting their bikes into the gate and getting set up. Western Australia will be in the back straight. South Australia's got a really long history in teams pursuiting, hasn't it, Scott? From junior level, when the all South Australian team held the junior world record for a while, up to the seniors.
And geographically, one of the benefits they do have is by far the majority of the cyclists in South Australia do live in Adelaide, so it's easier to get them together, and that's not so often the case. When you look at Western Australia, the qualifying yesterday was the first time the Western Australian team had actually ridden together in a team pursuit and still qualified second fastest, made their way into the final. So
in a 4:02, so yeah. Bearing in mind that they haven't ridden a lot together, to go so fast shows an immense amount of talent. Connor Lay, the winner of the individual pursuit for the last 4 years here at the Track Nationals, was pulling some pretty big turns. But I imagine they'll nudge close, if not go under the 4-minute mark tonight. Really fast track.
The race for gold, the elite men's team pursuit final, South Australia versus Western Australia, and it's Zimmerman, Bledden, Holmes and Marriage for South Australia up against Bonza, Carter, Lay and Dola. And the last time Western Australia made the final and won the gold medal at the National Championships was 2017. It was against South Australia. It was a championship record of 3:55, which still stands. That was a combination of Cameron Meyer, Michael Freeberg, Stephen Hall and Sam Welsford.
Not bad. Not a bad combo there. It's got some world beaters, some still in the World Tour, some retired from and now coaching. Western Australia struggling a little bit with their keeping the four together, but one unit, South Australia, so efficient, Scott. If you look at them from the front, you could run a ruler over the four of them. Western Australia pushing the limits, but you can see the little gaps opening up between the riders.
103.7 for the first kilometre. It was Jack Dola, the under-19 rider, that was off the back of the Western Australians, just unfortunately wasting a bit of extra energy that he cannot afford to do early on in this race. South Australians definitely in control early on, looking very smooth. 0.7 of a second is the difference between these two. South Australians, of course, were the fastest in qualifying yesterday. All 8 riders have had a nice, comfortable night's sleep and an afternoon program to freshen up. So they've had a long time since the qualifying to get back to absolutely full speed again for this final.
And the South Australian team continuing in their very neat formation. The Western Australian team starting to settle in a bit more. Scott, the gap, 1.35 seconds. A bit wider at this point than what it was in qualifying. WA now down to 3.
Jack Dola, it is, the man we mentioned earlier that was having a bit of trouble at the back. He's the rider to go. He's an under-19 rider, and that's going to be a huge advantage to the South Australians as they go down the back straight with 7 laps to go.
We'll see the gap really increase here because you can see when they do go over that pursuit line, it is now edging toward the 2-second mark. And at about the 4-second mark, and you can actually see them in the next straight, Scott. So if they continue to motor at this pace, Western Australia needs to lift. Connor Lay needs to do a bit of an individual pursuit within the team's pursuit here and really keep some consistent speed. But again, as the pace is pushed, the Western Australian team, some gaps opening up. South Australia are now down to 3. Leo Zimmerman has said, off you go, fellas. I've done what I can. I'm out. Both teams racing with 3 men. The clock, of course, stopping at the end of the 3rd rider, so they can't afford any mistakes now.
Into the final kilometre now, 4 laps to go in South Australia. In a very comfortable position for now, but we have seen in recent times, so look at the interesting change there from Western Australia. So that was really unusual, swinging up. It was Kai Bonza swinging up in the straight and going back to 3rd position. So SA in a commanding position. The championship record, 3:55, is held by Western Australia. They're not going to get it this time, I don't think. Connor Lay, as you go down the top back straight there, starting to stretch the Western Australians, trying to get them back up into full speed. But for now, South Australia in complete control. They'll come around to get the bell. Brett Aiken will give them the indication from the inside of the track that they are on their way to another gold medal in team pursuit racing for South Australia. They've done it so many times in the past. Well trained, well drilled and well performed. As the West Australians get half a lap to go, the South Australians come through to get the win. Let's look at the time. 3:56.986. Sensational time for both teams actually, but South Australia putting in a brilliant ride there, and I think they've actually thought they've gone a lap early, so they've gone another lap in just for a little bit extra training.
Well, not too far off what is the Aussie Championship record. The championship record from 2017 on this velodrome, 3:56.834. They've gone 3:56.986. So close, Scott. So close. They've really lifted another level, haven't they? Because Western Australia has also gone quicker than they did.
A couple of seconds. They improved a couple of seconds. So the West Australians
so
looked messier.
Close, Western Australia, to breaking the 4-minute mark. Ever so close to doing so. They haven't, but a couple of seconds quicker. 4 minutes, .085 for that Western Australian team. Again, mightily impressive time for a team that hasn't previously ridden together before.
They did look the messier of the two, the Western Australians, but were able to pull out an extra couple of seconds from qualifying. So great ride from them.
Incredible that you can go under 4 minutes and be described as looking quite messy and losing a rider pretty early on. I know, but isn't that remarkable just how quick they're going? And it goes to what we were talking about yesterday, Scott, that there is a strategy behind the team's pursuit. No longer are they just putting 4 riders together, doing even turns and trying to go fast. They are now sacrificing riders for certain speed. And we are seeing, even at an international level, a lot messier team's pursuit than we used to because they're taking more risks. And they have to. Once one team is prepared to do that, the others have to really rise to meet that. So, look, sensational ride from the South Australian team to go under that 4-minute mark very significantly is well done.
Both teams using under-19 riders as well. Will Holmes for South Australia and also Jack Dola. So good to see the young lads capable of going as fast as they just showed. Junior women's under-19 Kirin is the next race coming up onto the track. 7 riders in this one, normally 6. I think straight out final for them with 7 riders. It'll be Maya Dillon, Lilia Tataranoff, Mirella Willis-Hell, Belinda Bailey, Sally Carter, Eva Sislowski, and Jodie Blackwood, the New Zealander. So 2 Western Australians, 2 New South Wales riders, the South Australian, the Victorian, and the Kiwi. Belinda Bailey is road/endurance athlete, so it's interesting to see her in the mix here up against the pure sprinters.
South Australian boys pleased with their efforts, but not overtly super thrilled. And I reckon, Scott, it's because they were it's a bit of business. They're there on a mission to do a time. They've done it. Some of them will now go and focus on the points race that's happening tonight.
I mentioned the change normally in the bends, and this is where Kai Bonza down the straight. And I know the team in the past have experimented with doing changes in the straights compared to the bends, but we haven't seen that for a while. So Kai Bonza doing the change down the straight to get into third position. You can see the challenge it is then to get back on, because you're not using all that extra elevation of the banking height, which is so much better to come down at speed.
And it's one thing for that to work when they're going a 4-minute pace versus a 3 minutes 40 pace, which is, essentially what they're needing to do at the international level now. So